So, good afternoon, everyone. Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So, welcome to the 6th session of the EPDP lecture series featuring the private sector. For the benefit of first-time attendees, the EPDP organized this lecture series to gather energy experts and practitioners from government, the academic, and the private sector, and provide them with a neutral platform to exchange ideas and insights on the sector. This lecture series also supports the short-term and long-term capacity building programs of EPDP as it aims to provide a holistic understanding of the country's electric power industry. After hosting lectures from representatives of the government and academia, the EPDP now aims to provide perspectives from the private sector. Okay, our lecture this afternoon is in partnership with the Energy World Corporation. The lecture is entitled Delivering Clean and Green Energy to the Philippines, to be presented by Mr. Stuart Elliott. But before I call on Mr. Elliott, allow me to introduce him. Mr. Stuart Elliott is currently the CEO of Energy World Corporation. He's also the founder and managing director of Energy World International, one of EWC's largest shareholders. EWI's interests include listed investments, resources, property, and hotel interests. Prior to EWC, Mr. Elliott was the managing director and CEO of Consolidated Electric Power Asia, which was one of the leading independent power producers in Asia, with over 6,500 megawatts of electrical power generation in operation or under construction in Asia. Prior to entering the power industry, Mr. Elliott managed and directed several internationally significant engineering and construction projects and pioneered the success of the slip-form method of construction in Australia and Asia. The lecture will run for 40 minutes and will be followed by a 20-minute open forum where questions from the audience will be entertained. Kindly note that the presentation, content, and opinions of the lecturer do not necessarily reflect that of EPDP USA and the UPCOM Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us all welcome Mr. Elliott.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. The doctor asked me to come about 6 months ago, and I said, what's happening? Again, it's a great pleasure to be here. And he said, delivering clean energy. Delivering clean and green energy to the Philippines. A lot of people said it's more fun in the Philippines, and I can assure you, when you start a project for the first time, it is a lot of fun. Hello. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
When you start something for the first time in the Philippines, it's a lot of fun. And I think many of you will know who's in industry, and for some of you youngsters who are going to grow up and get into industry and do things, there's a lot of frustration, but a lot of fun with it. Keep looking at it, and my advice to you is never give up, particularly in the Philippines. This is what we're going to talk about, but we're going to leave this slide with you, so I'm not going to dwell on a lot of the writing. But let me say this. When we talk about LNG, a lot of people have a lot of views on liquefied natural gas. But we had to introduce it. It was born out of necessity. I wanted to get LNG. I went to many of the large suppliers, and they said, unless you can order 2.5 million tons for 15 to 20 years, please don't talk to us. So I thought about it. When I purchased my first car, I never had to sign a 20-year offtake agreement. I just wanted to go to the garage and fill up, and I think most of us want to do that. And that's what we're trying to introduce to the Philippines, to make life a little bit easier for smaller power producers where they can get LNG much better. But we also said, and the LNG industry is so fragmented. Somebody explores for gas, somebody develops a gas, somebody liquefies a gas, somebody ships a gas, somebody regasifies it, and then somebody burns it at the power station. It's very much like the fisherman. If you catch a fish and you sell it to the market, and then he sells it to the agent, he sells it into the restaurant, by the time you buy the fish, it's very expensive. So what we said is we want to develop this at both ends, that we take from the gas in the ground, we can give you one solution to bring it all the way and give you electricity at the other end, thereby keeping the costs very reasonable. And that is what more important for the Philippines, because as you all know, Philippines is probably some of the most expensive power in Asia. This was some of the early figures that we said. We're on 3.4 million tons of LNG pretty quickly, because there are so many diesel power stations that could be switched over. Now, to keep some of these costs down, we developed a modular system based on our original Australian model. And again, I went to the LNG producers and said, I want to buy a standard LNG plant. They said, we don't build things like that. Every one, can you imagine, every LNG plant is a one-off. So you can imagine how much they cost. So we said, no, we're going to modularize it. And working with Char and Siemens for what we call the all-electric drive, which again was very efficient. And again, the area that we work in, and again, some of the projects we have, I'll just show these quickly. This is the power station and gas plant that we have in Indonesia, where we bring the gas to the power station and we sell the electricity long-term 6.2 cents per kilowatt hour. That's exploring for the gas, delivering the gas, not liquefied, but now, because we have so much gas in this area, we're actually going to develop an LNG plant in this area so that we can bring gas to many, many islands within Indonesia, which is very similar to the Philippines. And again, we supply small power stations. This is an 8 megawatt power station. And again, a lot of people think we can't do it. Go back again, our first LNG plant in Australia, which has been running for over 20 years, and delivered LNG, listen to this, over 400 kilometers to an 8 megawatt power station, and it was still economical. Again, our own gas fields to show that in Arramanga in Queensland, in Gilmore, we have gas in the ground, which we can, again, the full project. Under development in Indonesia, again, this is a liquefaction plant, so we're taking the gas and we'll liquefy it here. Again, you have a storage, so these are the, like big fridges, we take the gas, clean up the gas, liquefy it, reduce the temperature, and then store the gas at minus 160 degrees in these big tanks. This is Australia, another one. The gas plants in Queensland taken out, Gilmore and Arramanga gas. Again, people want it to Manisa and even shipping out of the north. In South Australia, again, we're involved in a very big gas field there. It's called PL96. So there's a lot of gas. That's the most important thing. And they're talking now that gas, if you just take it, because of all the shale gas, there's more than 200, 300 years of gas supply available. So just to give you a little bit of background, when I first started coming here for power, we did the Modus 1, the Modus 2, Pacola, and so on. These were coal. We did the barges, and now we're moving into the clean energy. Obviously, the world moved from when the demand was very high in the Philippines for power. We were able then to put the power stations in, but now it's time to move on to cleaner fuel. And as many of you will see here, probably 10 years ago, you would have seen ashtrays everywhere, but we've all given up smoking. And I see the same in the world. It's now decided through the Paris Agreement to try and give up smoking as much as we can, and asking all the countries to try and reduce coal-fired power station. This is the Department of Energy's projections. They're saying they need 43,000 megawatts by 2040. I say you will need more, and particularly you youngsters, because at the moment you're one of the lowest per capita consumption of electricity in Asia. Now, if you want to get in, even China now has jumped up to 3,000. When I first started, China and the Philippines were about the same 20 years ago. To join these clubs of economic growth, you've got to get that up here. But you need economical power and plenty of power, because that's the driving economy. If you look at America at the top, 13,000 megawatts per capita. If you look at Australia, 10,000 megawatts. That's what drives these economies. And every economist, I noticed this with the Economist building, every economist will tell you there's a direct link between power consumed and the GDP of a country. Now, I think the GDP of the Philippines is still around $3,600 US equivalent per person. And I know we were at one session where they were talking about they want to get it up to the same as Thailand, and Malaysia, which again you see is 4,000. So there's a lot of work to do to get that power into the system, and to get it in as clean energy, but more important, affordable energy. At the moment, you're some of the most expensive power in, people say in the world, let alone here. And yet, if you take the production of power, it's quite reasonable. But by the time it gets to the end user, somewhere along the line, like the fish, through the fish market, it's got a very expensive meal. Now, if we look at coal and LNG, everyone says LNG is too expensive. We've done all the figures, and if you look at fuel costs, we think are about the same now. So the generating costs, we think is about 5.3 as against 7 point something cents for coal. So then, you then have to add on what are the health problems and the health costs. Now these are unforeseen costs you can't put directly to it, but they're not insignificant. Now there was an executive order number 66, where natural gas has been recognized environmentally friendly and digital sources. This I think was about 2003, this executive order by the President. And he went on to say that they wanted everybody to help. The Department of Energy were designated as the people who take care of it and look after it and make sure that we got LNG or we got clean gas. Now, apart from the Malin Fire gas field, and we shouldn't underestimate it, Shell did a good job. They discovered it, they developed it, and they brought it ashore. Unfortunately, they used it, expensive gas, to make sure they got paid. They got a very high price for it. I understand it's around 10 to 12, somewhere in that order of per MMBTU equivalent, which is quite high. But it got used more as a base load, and it could have been used more, let's say, sparingly and economically as the mid-merit gas, which would have been a lot more advantage to the industries here. Now this is what the Department of Energy wanted. And this is what they gave when I first came here and talked about it. They said, this was their slide. So this is the Malin Fire coming in. And they said, look, we've also got to bring in LNG for power, for industry, commercial, residential, and transport. Can you imagine you've got a city of 16 million people and no city gas? There was a gas company here and they pulled up the pipes, or they got rid of it. Now in a modern city we still have, unfortunately, it usually ends up with the ladies, and I'm not being sexist, but they're the ones who have to go and get the LNG canister and carry it, and I'll show you the cost of that in a minute. So we got our first permit. So we're a little bit ahead of the pack. So this is now what we did to start building the first hub terminal to bring in clean fuel. Again, this was the first power station we developed in Pagbalan, and then we had some land available in very deep water and very suitable for shelter, so let's bring it in. So again, building the big jetty that can take the largest LNG ship. And again, the tanks, and then we need the power station. You need to be able to burn some of the LNG because you can't just store it because it boils off, so you have to have somewhere for that to go. So again, this was the groundbreaking and the scoping, and I put this slide in recognition of the first governor there. Unfortunately, he got killed in a helicopter crash, but he did give us a lot of support. This is Governor Suarez here, and he's been very supportive. And this was just to show you some of the construction of the big tank. This is approximately 80 meters in diameter. The wall is about 1 meter thick. And it's built to the highest seismic standards. This is zone 4 seismic. So the amount of steel and the amount of stressing and everything, you have to allow for about a 5,000 year return cycle of earthquakes. And this is very, very heavy construction. And again, we were able to use the slip form system here. This tank can hold 140,000 cubic meters. This is the dome, the roof going on. The pipe supports going on. And the second tank foundation all being done. And this is then the membrane that goes inside. Just like a thermos flask, it's insulated, and then you have the stainless steel that protects the insulation to keep it. So you can see it's very big insulation. And this is provided by GTT of France, that provides the insulation to about 95% of all the LNG ships are membrane ships. Now what they always like to show you in a picture, if they show you an LNG ship, they'll show you the ones with a big dome. And they're called the Moss type, and they're quite old-fashioned actually. But the membrane is a very more efficient, carry more LNG, and but they don't usually show them. Again, our jetty is built to be able to take it from the largest ship to even the smallest ship, which we can then bring in LNG, and then we can load out LNG for redistribution throughout the Philippines. This was where the jetty, you can see at the end, and again a few slides of building the jetty. Again, you'll see very heavy reinforcing in. Piles are 1.5 meter in diameter, and they're all 45 meters deep for the piling here to support the big ships. Control buildings. These are the only ones, and again confirmed by all the port people, the only quick release hooks. So in other words, everything, if the ship's tied up, the LNG ships, and it needs to be released quickly, it's fully automatic. Everything can be let go and the ship can move off of the jetty with no human involvement. And you can see here the jetty then down to the tank. And the fenders, some of the largest fenders I think in the Philippines going on. These are the loading arms that bring in the LNG and the gas, and then also reload the ships if necessary. Pipelines. And then to do that, we said let's build the power station so that we've got economical power. So 650 megawatt power. So turbines, and we see them, they're all brought in by sea, delivered to the site. Construction all carried out. And you can see these are virtually all ready to go into operation. Okay, Siemens equipment. Now these are some of the most efficient in the world. They've got efficiencies of about 60%, but they're also fast start-up and fast turn-down, so that if there's any requirements to move into the market very quickly, these can be switched on very quickly and switched down very quickly. So they're very, very efficient turbines. So bypass stack gone in. And then this is then the steam turbine, switchyard's all ready now. And this is a steam turbine that will then turn it into a combined cycle. Regasification, seawater cooling or seawater heating for the LNG. Very simple system. Pass seawater through a heat exchanger, pass the gas one side, seawater the other side, and you get cold water comes out the other side. So you don't want cold water, no. What you want cold water for is when you put it back into your intake to the power station, and you actually get more efficiency back into your power station because you're lowering the temperature of your water going into your condenser on the other side. So it's a fantastic cycle. Administration building, air accommodation in some of the resettlement buildings that we did. And then we, like everything, you get all the site visits. These are all the industrialists, the banks, the World Bank was there, this is the local mayor, the governor, Governor Suarez, the previous, and then Department of Energy, again, Department of Energy again, and now we get round to Mr. Cousy, been there, still on the top of the tank. And his words to me was, I'm absolutely amazed what we've done here, you know, so he was quite surprised. And then he went into the turbine, and he loves the turbine, so I think Mr. Cousy was, and actually from this visit, to be fair to the Department of Energy, they've been a big help in untangling what has been some of their frustrating time, which was getting the connection sorted out. So they've done a lot of work since that visit. Congressman Allen, the House of Representatives all there. And I put this one up there just to show you because you can have this in your, this gives you all when we received the DOE and then how we finally got the confirmation of the location of the power, you know, they gave us a connection agreement about, I think a few weeks ago, they gave us the final where it will be. So until we got that date, we were not able to find the land allocation to get the right of way to the substation. So this is, in some ways, this is what's going to be the problem, you can say, for the Philippines in the future, and I think needs more looking at than us. If you don't have sufficient transmission lines and a good enough system to get these connections in quickly, obviously you're not going to get the power into where it's needed. So I think although this is complicated, you can read it in your, when you get time, you'll actually see what's been causing some of the issues. And so this is what was delaying it. Now you will see here, this is the fun in the Philippines. The reason we built it here, because sitting in our own land is a transmission line that had a lot of spare capacity. But next door is also a coal plant, and they rushed to make sure they grabbed the transmission and built another 400 megawatts. Even though they built 400 megawatts, there's still capacity in there, and the rules of Gridco is that it should be first come, first served. And in fact, they're still looking for us to connect into here, as well as the transmission, the connection 11 kilometers away. There's still a hearing now to whether we can connect to them. But again, you know, being first, you face a lot of these issues with coal plants, the resistance, and you have to put up with it. But you can see, we didn't build it where we didn't have a transmission line. And this transmission line's got another, this got 700 megawatts, and again, could easily be upgraded to take another 1,000 megawatts with just a simple upgrade. And again, you can see very clearly where it is. You've got the plant here, the transmission line's running right by the side of it. But it's delayed it for, I would say, 2 years trying to get this sorted out. There was also the 69 kV line, which could have been upgraded. And again, a lot of frustration. Who owns it? And these are the, you can study these in your papers and you can see what we're working on to do it. But that's basically all the connections that we're putting in. So you can see the hub terminal 90% complete, pending completion, but the 200 megawatt anchor antenna So we're virtually ready to go with clean energy. But what we can do then is not only bringing in the LNG for the power plant was only the one thing, to build the terminal. That was only one facet, if you remember, of the Department of Energy's presentation. We then wanted it for distribution throughout the rest of the Philippines, to take it to some of the smaller islands, smaller power stations. We've built our own ship. We have our own ship. The two domes I talked about, they don't belong on the ship. This was actually being loaded in Boston, America. So the two domes don't belong to the ship. It's just a flat area here. So this is a membrane ship. So we're ready to bring in the LNG even in the ship and just take it straight into the power station. So we're virtually ready to go. These are some of the smaller ships for the distribution. We're working with GTT, as I said, the people who did the membrane to build these. They want very shallow drop, 4 to 5 meters of drop, which will give you a lot more access to where you can take it. Storage, not recommended in the typhoon areas, but you can use barge storage on a temporary basis to bring in LNG if you want to. But when you have up to 23 typhoons or more a year, as you get in the Philippines, it's better to put it on shore and turn it out of concrete, because otherwise you could lose one of these. Again, the barge. Now this is very interesting. This is what's happening. This has been built, this ship. This is a bunkering barge built in America for bunkering ships. Now many of the cruise liners now want to use LNG because they want to promote a clean image. They don't want to be using dirty fuel, and in the future, even the ports are offering a 50% reduction in all port costs if you use clean fuel. So even the Philippines will have to start to make allowances for bunkering cruise ships and other ships that use LNG in the future. Now what do we have? We can have truck transport, barge, up to large, so whatever you want to transport it with is quite easy. And again, if you want to use barge or the smaller ships, no problem. And this is one I was showing you in Australia, and I love to show you this one because this defies all logic where people said it won't work. Now you can imagine each one of these containers is 2 megawatts of electricity, so that's 8 megawatts. This is a storage tank, and these are the two small regasification units. They're ambient air regasification. You can see the ice on them actually. You just feed it in, and the hot air, the normal ambient air does it. And this was, again, brought 400 kilometers and still economical. So you can imagine how many of the small places around the Philippines, on some of the islands and some of the small towns, this can be a very useful solution, economical and clean solution. This again just shows the graphic of how it works. And again, the type of, depending on what you want, smaller storage, and these again just to show you what ambient air regasification units look like. Very simple. They're just like a car radiator in reverse. You feed the LNG through it, and in these hot climates. Again, this is a railway. Once they upgrade the railway, you can even move LNG on the railway. These are used in the ISO tanks. You can use it and move it around, even in ISO tanks. So the combinations of how you can move, store, transport LNG are unlimited. There's no reason it should be a problem for you. What we've also said is that we can do the pipeline. We'd love to see a pipeline go up to, or a SUCAT at a